Hello and welcome to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And the boys are back. The boys are back.
He's excited.
The boys
He's excited.
are back. I am excited.
I think we should be excited. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been a long time. I missed your face.
Did you really?
No, it's Queensland, so we're kind of COVID-free. Come here. Oh, you big fella. I missed him.
It's been good being in Queensland, hey, during all this. It's been pretty good. You can go to restaurants and stuff now. It's pretty open. It's pretty much business as usual, I'd say.
Business as usual. And speaking of business as usual, we got the burly big heads, Chris.
On the beers.
Cheers
as usual.
Oh, that low-carb goodness.
Yeah. So, just for prior warning, I just started the COVID exit diet. So, I'm starting on the low-carb beers. Started going back to the gym this week, which is good. So, all the gyms have started to open up. So, it's been good.
Right.
Yeah, I put on a lot of weight after my wedding. So, the last time I think we recorded...
That's called marriage, Chris.
the marriage happened. It was awesome. Thanks to Benny for that. And then we went through a couple of end-of-season podcasts. And then all this COVID stuff happened. We didn't even record a final podcast. And here we are. Yeah. So, bit of a catch-up, I suppose.
COVID mayhem. Speaking of catching up, facebook.com/SC Insider.
Yep.
Twitter, it is SC_Insider_. And Chris?
Facebook is facebook.com/SC Insider. What?
I knew you'd be rusty. That's why I wrote it down, because you'd forget. On Twitch, for those here, it's SC_Insider on Twitch, for those of you that are joining us right now. We will record this, edit this while the game is on or before the game's on, and get this out to people to catch up with their listening pleasure tomorrow morning.
Yes, but we're here to help as many people as possible with their teams. So fire off your questions. We will get to them. Firstly, we want to do a little bit of an update because we weren't actually able to reveal our round one teams and how we went in to see how we're going to approach round two. So without further ado, Ben, how did you go with your teams?
Not too bad, except for the fact that I had Dylan What a Spud Robertson on my side. Tell you what, but I made some very good decisions, and here's the funny part. Everything's changed.
Everything's changed.
Everything has changed.
And we've got one game of data.
I know.
It just makes it like...
And that's the problem, because
better than no games of data.
Over the weekend, I'm like, I got 5 trades. I'm like, let me just get out Dunkley. Let me get out Bontempelli. Let me bring in Jai Simpkin. Let me bring in Viney. And then I look at my team, I'm like, wow, I've got some deep players here at M7 and F5 and F6. And I'm like, hang on a second, where's my midfield? So
no one even needs a midfield. Don't worry about it. No, it's not called super midfield.
Overrated. The other reason we haven't really recorded so much at this point in time, and we have enjoyed some of the other podcast group getting out there and doing a draft on, what's the best Tim Tam or whatever they've been up to, but no one knows.
Yeah, it's tough.
We're at least waiting until the teams are announced so we can at least try and give you some information. But even then, you saw our opinion on Dane Rampy and Rowan Marshall. This year could have 10 of them. We don't know.
There's 10.
No one knows.
10 Dane Rampys running around.
And it could be infuriating. It could just be one of those seasons.
It is. It's going to be.
You don't know. And the theme for today, because it's always good to have a theme, high highs and low lows, because when players are going off, they are literally going off like...
It's true.
Dustin Martin in Vegas, I tell you.
There's a huge disparity between the top scores and the bottom scores this year, which means rookies aren't going to earn you as much cash, even though that they'll earn that cash quicker.
Yes.
But
if they go missing, they're going to go missing.
The top-end players are going to score bigger points. So it's going to be...
Yep.
You're going to want to jump on them early. And the other thing that we've seen is trends in scoring. So we'll go through a little bit of that in terms of what type of players are scoring better than other types. So
yes.
A couple of little things to go through.
Yeah, high highs, low lows. So players are literally... If you have a bad game and you disappear, you get shafted. Whereas normally good players kind of work their way back in, or Supercoach kind of feels sorry for them and gives them a few bones here and there. But with me, Chris, I actually went Josh Kelly, Cripps, Dunkley, Bontempelli, Canelio, because... Canelio! Well, going into this, we weren't sure if they were going to play 3 games in a fortnight. So I was trying to pick Canelio for going forward. Bontempelli, Dunkley can go forward.
I like the Canelio pick. I think it's a good pick.
And then obviously Raul, Tom Green, Pickett with Brown, McKinnery and Robertson on the bench.
Yep.
Grundy and Naismith. I actually had Grundy, Jacobs, Naismith, and then Naismith went 121. I was like, catch you later, Jacobs. I was like, Jacobs, you can get out my side. So I've got 228k in the bank. Whitfield, Dustin, Martin, Petrarca, and Devon Smith.
Yep.
Along with Taylor, Butterick, King, and Kavara. Not actually bad. And the problem is, though, is that Petrarca and Smith did well. Both scored hundreds. I can't get rid of them now.
No.
And not to mention, they're both on 105, which is great for that little other bet that we've got going on.
Great for that.
The one that we forgot about.
I can't wait for this weekend. It's going to sort out
one way or the other.
A 1 week winner or loser. It's going to be great.
And then defense side, Sicily, Houston, Doherty, Robertson, Noble, Brander with Zerk Thatcher, whatever his name is, who is out this week anyway, and Gould on the bench. So not a bad little round out, except for the fact Robertson didn't do me well. Sicily didn't do well, although intercept defenders looks like in fashion.
I actually think that I'm targeting Sicily as someone to trade into my team.
It could be.
Because he just had a bad game.
Yeah.
Like, he actually just dropped marks that he would usually gobble up.
He dropped like 6 intercepts, and he was rusty as.
He was just off his game. I would back Sicily 100%.
So I'm not shaped up too bad, except now we have all these trades and then people that are kind of blowing up. So, I'm in the position as many. Bontempelli and Dunkley underperformed significantly.
Yep.
And because you have 5 trades, you're kind of like, well, maybe I could get someone that's not losing cash and then try and... If a premium has 2 bad games in a row, their price will go...
Yeah, and look, that's a consideration. One thing I will say in the defense of Bont and Dunks, both of them, is that, first of all, 2 things. You pick them for 17 games, not for 1 round. But also, Collingwood arguably played the best game I've seen them play since 2011. They dominated the Dogs, and Dogs couldn't get the ball. So... I do anticipate them to pick that up substantially.
Well, Chris, I hear, and this is the funny part, and we've had 10 weeks, and so the Dogs actually finally got back to me, and I couldn't work it out.
Did you send them an email?
I sent them an email, Chris. The Dogs, right? I was so furious. I was like, what is going on here? Is it their mentality? Is it their pre-game hustle? And you know what? It was pre-game. They were playing the wrong music, Chris. They played, believe it or not, Kiss Chasey. And that's what they did all night. They kissed, and they chased. Kiss Chasey. My God.
That was pretty bad.
It was bad.
It was almost as almost as bad as your joke this day. That was shocking. I'm glad the lame jokes are back, along with everything else.
Oh, mate. Oh, yeah. Here's a little side note topic, by the way. So in class, I was thinking about having you have a desk for naughty kids, right? I was actually going to put a mirror on there and call it the reflection zone, so they could go and reflect on their behaviour.
Oh, that is high brass.
That's totally me though.
That's top brass. That's great.
That's so me.
All right, so I'll go through my team. I threw the baby out with the bathwater the week of everything. As you probably know, we went back and forth just exchanging. I don't even know how many versions of my team. At the end of it, I literally changed my entire midfield. I had the same midfield for the entire preseason and changed it the week of round 1.
For better or worse?
Well, obviously we found out the changes, and I thought I wanted to go for more high impact players. So I switched out McRae and Neil and traded in Bont and Titch. So that
hurt you about 100 points.
It hurt me considerably. Well, Neil obviously I think he went 150. McRae didn't go too well, but I think McRae's always
he still got 100.
Yeah, exactly right. That's
better than the other 2 dogs.
Yeah, well, Titch still went 120.
119,
yeah. Obviously Bont only with the 76, I believe, off the top of my head. But just going through my team from the back line, because I'm not a spud like you that starts from the midfield.
Midfield's where it's at.
I started with, so I went with Dan Houston at D1. I had a ping on Lockie Weller, which was a bad decision.
Is that a drug joke for the Gold Coast?
Yeah, no. A ping.
A ping? No?
No, it wasn't, but I like it. Look, Weller, I still think can score quite well. One thing that I've noticed, though, is there's a big transitional period with defenders scoring. So he's obviously a midfielder that's playing a lot in the midfield. But if you don't get enough of the pill, you're not going to get anything. And he just wasn't getting enough of the pill that game. And with Gold Coast being Gold Coast, I can't imagine them getting enough pill.
Yep.
Whereas there's a big trend of intercepting defenders with big high-scoring ceilings in Supercoach as a defender. So I do think that moving on well is probably a good thing, especially short and long term. Obviously, I went with Doherty. I still went with Robertson. I still think Robertson's potentially a decent pick, but I'm going to give him another week and then maybe shift him next week. We'll see how we go. Noble, and I actually had on field Brander, and on the bench Zerk Thatcher, and I've actually played an M8 loop swing, Barry O'Connor, who's a defender forward. So I've got him at M8, who's my 0 at the moment. Moving on. Oh, his team started to drop, have they?
Yes.
Oh, sneaky. All right, let me get through, then we'll come back. You can have a look through and highlight.
Good news and bad news, yep.
Midfield, I have Fife, Dunkley, Titch, Danger, Bont, Rowell, Green, and Pickett with Brown, McInerney, and Robertson on the pine. And then I have Grundy, Naismith, and Darcy Cameron in the rucks. And in the forward line, I have Martin, Parrish, Petraka, Segler, Smith, Butterick, Taylor, and Kavara. So Parrish, I think, again, preseason role compared to round one role, completely different. Out of nowhere, Jake Stringer starts playing like majority midfield minutes and basically almost towed up Fife. He played really, really well and restricted Fife as a head-to-head matchup. So yeah, that was a good thing. But yeah, Parrish, I think, is not going to get the midfield minutes that I thought he was going to be getting as of the preseason. So I've made that trade. I think I'm probably going to be on trading him either down to Fort or someone to like a Hugh Greenwood. So we'll see how that goes on team lineups. But with no further ado, should we go through? Is it carnage?
Dude, it's a little bit good for those who were worried that there's they had to bring in some rookies this week on the bubble, because there's two that did well in the bubble that are injured and they're not playing. Not dropped, but there's some funny drops.
Just get to it.
Okay.
Let's go from well, tonight, obviously, we've got...
So, Julian Higgins in for Richmond. Caddy is gone. He's injured. Nankervis is omitted, which isn't surprising because Nankervis really dropped it. Darcy Cameron's in. Mason Cox is out. I don't know how long that will last. Chris?
Which one? Cameron and Cox? So, no, I think it's going to be in and out all season.
Based on form, I think those two will have to prove it to each other.
It's good for this week if there are other outs on the lines.
Good for that position, though. I think it's good for that position.
I had him literally to handcuff to Grundy. So, I've got him as a Grundy backup. And then I obviously have Segler in the forward line to cover a out from Naismith. So.
My problem was I had Jacobs and Collingwood had already played. So, when I wanted to dump Jacobs, I had to bring in...
Which is fine. I mean, look, there's a lot of people that went Cherry. Cherry also might play this week, but let's keep going.
Okay, so Geelong dropped Darcy Fort, number one.
Oh,
Catch
Jesus.
you later, Darcy Fort. Reece Stanley comes back into the ruck. So Darcy Fort has been flogged. Jordan Clark omitted, which is not good for the young fella. And Zach Guthrie omitted. Not too surprising there. Parfitt, Buse, and Stanley are in, which means that Stevens is not in.
Oh, well, I didn't think... I thought he was probably short of match fitness regardless of what happened, so...
Blake Hardwick in, Jago O'Meara is out. So, apart from that, no huge surprises.
So, Darcy Fort is a huge out because I was planning on going Parrish down to Fort, which would enable me to go quite easily Tom Green up to Jack Viney, which was...
interesting, Segler is lined up in the ruck, Titch and Wingard in the middle with Warple, which we kind of did say. And I did say Wingard was playing midfield. Did everyone hear me pre-season?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Impact player, 130.
Out, so that's...
that could be a big... so Wingard could actually have a massive week.
Yep.
Brisbane, out. Alex Witherden, omitted.
What a spud.
Catch you later.
Love him.
He had a bad game.
Your draft teams just took a big hit. Took a big bullet hit.
He was in all of them. He's just had a bad year.
Ben has traded in Alex Witherden in all 5 of his draft teams.
And some of them have Hibbert as well for Melbourne, who also got dropped. Birch. Okay, so Devin Robertson has been omitted. Marcus Adams is injured, and Noah Ainsworth has been omitted.
So that's good news for Starcevic, who obviously retains his spot on the team.
Correct. Archie's in, Birchall's in, Lester's in, and Thomas Berry. It's very good. There's 2 berries in that side now.
Yeah, well, all reports are he plays very similar to his brother, so he's going to be hard at the ball, contested
role player. I think that's really role player. So unlucky for Robertson, but again, people were clutching at straws there.
Unfortunately, Sam Sturt is out on the Fremantle side.
McCarthy, Sturt, and Cowden. So injured though, which we knew. He had a back issue during COVID.
Likely back next week.
Yeah, so he had back issues, which is why. So he would be in their frame, you would expect.
Yep.
But it's good for those who don't have him just yet, because you can hold on.
Well, maybe. There's a lot of rookies that are looking at their first game that now you've got to pick, okay, well, we've got 2 trades for next week.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the ones we're bringing in next week?
It'll be interesting. And not only that,
it does change things
8
slightly.
to 10 weeks is a long time in between innings.
Oh, yeah.
Matera, Mundy, and Wilson. So Mundy, a good one for draft leagues. Not many people kind of picked him up, or they did late. I picked him up for free on some of mine because no one thought of him. He was injured long term, so he's back.
Excellent.
Pitney's in, which makes sense for Cruiser. I think he might have up to 4 weeks ruck, and he might even keep it yet. You never know. But I think, was it De Koning or something still
Tom
injured?
De Koning? Yeah, he's
injured.
Still
2 to 4 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So Eddie Betts, McKay, Pitney's in, Cruiser, Paddy Dow's omitted. Finally, what a spud. He played horrible.
Look, no, I actually didn't mind his like the first round this year. I was okay, look.
Role player, though.
His normal level versus what he played round 1, I thought was better.
For a pick 3? Was he picked 3?
Oh, no, he's completely overrated. But he just doesn't have the build on him right now.
And Zach Fisher injured, which is an interesting one. Melbourne have absolutely swung the axe.
Oh, yeah, they have.
Neil Bullen omitted, Spargo omitted, Lockhart omitted, Michael Hibbard omitted.
Oh, Jesus.
Brown omitted, McDonald omitted, so Oscar McDonald that is, and Toby Bedford omitted. And they're bringing in Salem, Bennell, Hunt, Joel Smith, Luke Jackson, Nathan Jones, and Rivers. I think that improves their side.
Oh, substantially. And some decent rookies there, obviously. So we've got Luke Jackson with a debut.
Yes.
He's
Bennell with
highly touted, but I'm not sure of his scoring potential, so hold off.
Bennell, I'd probably hold off on bringing him in until he plays at least a game and watch him, his role and his body.
Again, it all comes back to next week, right?
Unless it frees up cash.
No, well, I don't even think that. I think that, you're probably going to pick him up, regardless of what he scores this week. You're probably picking him up next week if he gets through and isn't injured, right?
Yeah, so maybe use one of your 5 if you don't have it. Like if you have it now, might as well.
It's because, okay, so what other 2 are you looking at for next week? So what ones are playing this week that are going to be on the bubble next week that you have to pick up? So Sturt comes in next week, for example.
There's
one.
Georgiadis, what's his name?
Georgiadis
is out this week.
We've now got obviously Trent Rivers, so we want a week on Rivers.
Actually, you can't pick up all 3.
Maybe people want to look at Darcy Cameron. He turns up, you're going to want to bring him in.
Yep.
So there are guys that are playing their first game this week that you might want to pick up next week. So you might go early on one this week if.
Maybe,
and here's the thing.
Maybe Rivers?
Maybe, but here's with Rivers.
You haven't seen him.
No data on Rivers at all. We don't even know what position he's playing.
The Rivers are dry.
the Rivers running very dry. Whereas someone like Harley Bennell, you know that you're going to get at least something out of him if he's playing. He might play 4 pocket, but I reckon he can still average at least 70 in the 4 pocket.
Impact player for sure.
So his only issue is his body. So it's going to be tough to make those calls, but just be mindful of whatever you do this week. You've got to be aware that next week you're going to need to bring another 2 in.
And you also have to be aware that you could basically use the 5 and 2 trades every week, and you'll probably still have some trades for finals.
Yeah, but be careful of just wasting a trade for the sake of wasting a trade, because you never know, late in the season, that could just be a 0. If you just need that one extra trade.
Or, who was it last year that traded? Was it, no, it wasn't Corey, was it? Was it one of the...
I have no idea what you're talking
Breda,
about.
I think. Breda, I think, might have traded Matty Crouch and stuff just because
like literally, and then it
lost.
Reversed, the other side. Yeah.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Gold Coast, Brendan Ellis is injured. I think he injured himself from the Big Free. Someone was saying injured his calf.
Did he really?
Yeah. Could have been worse. He could have been pulling a Brisbane Lions coach. And
Fagan
hamstring.
He tore off the bone or something.
Yeah,
it was like 8 weeks.
I know. Horrible.
Oh, wow.
Caleb Graham, David Swallows suspended. Joyce still hasn't picked up the phone call, so he's been omitted. And Will Brodie is omitted. Brodie.
Unlucky. Brodie played fantastic in the preseason. Got a round 1 call up and then played like a spud.
Well, he probably
against Port. Actually, to be fair, the Gold Coast Suns, I gave them raps in the preseason, thinking they were going to come out and play a different brand of footy. And they went back to the same old brand of footy that they played the whole of last year. Kick it long down the line, and it was terrible. And it was a bust.
Yep. Hopefully they've had 10 weeks to have another mini preseason.
Yep. Well,
Sexton in, Ballard in, Harbrow in, Hanley in, and Powell in. So nothing really
Supercoach relevant.
Correct.
Nope.
But good news for the draft pick number 2, who isn't really Supercoach relevant. Anderson is on the wing again. But again, Ellis is out, so that kind of shores up that wing spot.
That's
anyway.
true. Other one that didn't get named...
Weller's been pushed to the wing because of Ellis.
Probably.
Yeah, it is. Weller. And Hugh Greenwood's in the guts.
Well, that might actually be a good thing for Weller. Just get his hand on the pill.
Because they keep going outside.
Yeah, right. On the negative side for Gold Coast is that there was rumours that Sam Flanders would get a call up this week, so that hasn't happened. That's good for our Supercoach teams further on. So let's get some rookies making some cash, and then we'll have a decent downgrade option.
Hit him up, Chris, with the Port Adelaide.
Well, on the West Coast side before that...
What?
Oscar Allen is in and Tom Hickey is out.
Oh, good for Nick Nat.
That's great.
Oh, Nick Nat Nui.
That's great for Nick Nat. It's also good for Brander. Brander holds his spot, which is really good. Unfortunate for Bailey Williams, which is not good. Moving on, so Port Adelaide, we've got Dixon and Bonner in, so I definitely thought that Dixon would be in. Georgiadis out, which we kind of knew before this anyway, and Lenert is out as well, omitted. Don't see much relevancy there, apart from obviously those with Georgiadis. You might want to hold him. It's not necessary, unless you are going to not have a playing rookie on field, or an emergency. You might want to trade just so you've got an emergency there, because you never know with late outs. That's when I would trade Mitch Georgiadis. On the Adelaide side of things, a lot of ins. Ben Crocker makes a debut, who I thought played decent.
Oh, what a crock.
I actually thought Crocker played decent in the preseason. But then the rumours were he was nowhere near selection. So I was like, what do you mean? Like, Crocker's actually was a decent player for Collingwood. He wasn't a great player, but he was, there was a lot of small, medium forwards at Collingwood. So they didn't just, it was a surplus. So I don't see him, he was a lot better than what they had, which was basically all young kids who'd never really played AFL level. So
right.
I like him there.
Good news is that your wife said she can feed me after this.
Oh, that's good. Excellent. What's she feeding me?
She said normally you don't do the trick.
Ben Keys, your mate's...
okay, yeah. So Ben Keys, he is a one-trick pony. So let's see where he's lined up, though, because if he's in the forward line, he must have learnt some new tricks over there because he is horrible.
You're going to love the outs.
Where is he? Hey, where's Ben Keys? On the bench?
Probably on the bench. Yep.
Okay, so he's great. He's a good inside midfielder, but Lions didn't need an inside midfielder. So
Ned McHenry's also been named, so there's another one you're going to watch for next week. So there's 3 rookie price players that you're going to want to watch this week for next week. So again, you're going to need to make some early adjustments this week. Tom Dodie as well, another one. So my plan is if he does go well this week, straight swap from Robertson to Dodie, but I want to give him 1 week.
Well, it's not really a straight swap unless Robertson
I think it's
does
like 15K.
well. Unless Robertson does well this week.
He's breaking 73, man.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to...
You could afford to wait. That. And they're playing against the Dogs who don't have the best forward line in the world.
Right, check out these omissions. Bryce Gibbs.
Yeah, that was what I was laughing at. Imagine. Hang on. Imagine being worth like 2 first-round draft picks, going to a club, doing so bad in the midfield. You know what? They say, okay, no, you know what? Let's put you at the half-back line.
You're an elite user.
Yeah,
you're an elite user.
Let's put you at the half-back line, and we'll train you there all preseason. Round 1 has the horrible score, and then kick him out again straight after.
I can't breathe. Oh, that's so good. That is so good.
What are the odds there?
Ben Davis is also omitted. Billy Frampton obviously omitted as well. And Tyson Stengel, serving his suspension, is out of that lineup. Now on to the Giants. So these are Sunday squads now. So we'll have to have a look at what the extended benches look like. But we've got Cal Ward in, Jackson Haitley in, Jai Caldwell in, Mumford in, and Zach Williams in. I assume that quite a few of those will be on the extended bench.
Out. Interchange though. Heath Shaw, Callum Ward, Langdon, Tom Green, Haitley, Lloyd, Caldwell, and Mumford. So you would assume Caldwell, Haitley,
Green.
So Green. They're probably fighting for a spot.
Mumford, Caldwell, Haitley, Green. Is
Heath Shaw and Callum Ward are in. I'd probably say then Langdon or Lloyd would be in, and then maybe Haitley, Caldwell, or Green.
Okay, so here's a good question for the masses out there.
Haitley. Really.
Are we moving on Green? Because he's in a Sunday squad. You're not going to find out until tomorrow afternoon. Moving on him, you might need to move on him early. So if I had to make a call tonight, I'm moving on him because I just don't think he's got the good job security now.
I agree. With Callum Ward back, I think he's cooked.
Yep.
Before that, you go, hey, he's named, and and
there's
everything
a spot
else
for him.
Yeah. Not only that, if you move him down to someone, even like a Rivers or whatever, you can actually bank about 40 odd K, and then if it helps your team, I don't mind doing Rivers from that.
I don't think there's any chance that
I
don't think there's any chance he survives till when Taranto gets back, which is 4 to 6 weeks away still. I don't think there's any chance that Green's going to last that. But look, if you want to take that punt, that's fine. I just would prefer to have money making on my field.
Well, here's the problem.
And he's on your field, right? So you're going to need someone that's going to be generating a decent score.
The problem is they say the grass is greener on the other side. And the problem is there's already a green over there eating all the grass.
Did you just come up with that?
I did.
It sounds like it was because it was terrible as well.
2 greens don't make it right. And if you go and eat Toby Grass... if you go and eat Toby Green's grass... He will kick you in the face. He will kick you in the face.
There's already one green.
There's one. Yeah. It's not greener pastures. It's already green over in that pasture.
It's a valid point, and I can't argue that logic.
Look, it's like someone with 2 first names.
We're definitely back, boys. We're definitely back. Okay, on the north side. So again, a lot of ins and only a couple of outs there. So Aidan Bonner is in for his first game. Bailey Scott. Kyron Hayden, Mason Wood, Tom Campbell, and Tristan Cherry listed there. So we'll have to have a look at those benches.
Cherry
as well.
says debut though.
Yeah, have a look if he's named on field, I'll believe that. Obviously with Larky out, that does leave a spot
he's
open.
On extended bench.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that lines up.
I did hear though, is Taylor's. Yeah, he's on field, which I heard earlier in the week, so that's fair.
Who's Curtis Taylor? Yep.
Taylor, yeah. So lock him in, which
beautiful.
I already heard earlier in the week, so that's fine.
So he's probably going to be my on-field right now. This F6.
So Anderson, Scott, Boner, Mason Wood. Geez, they got some good players already on that bench. I don't see many more. Hayden, Cherry, Murphy, Campbell. I don't see them really getting a game. How do you pass Anderson, Scott, Boner, and Mason Wood? You can't really.
It's a bit strange that they've also got. So if they've got Cherry there, they've also got Campbell there. So one of them's going to be that actually might mean that one of them does play.
Maybe.
I think Cherry might play with Campbell listed as an emergency, because why would you have two ruck emergencies? So they might play Cherry forward and as that chop out. So
fair.
That could be good. So those with Cherry that are looking to pass him off to Cameron, maybe hold on that front.
Yep.
And of course Ahern again omitted because he can't last in that team longer than 5 minutes for no reason.
I just saw Sydney's team first.
Oh wow, I just saw that too. Okay, so here we go, guys.
And I am in a pickle.
So in Callum Sinclair, Chad Warner, Dylan Stevens, Georgie Hewitt, my man, Robbie Fox and Ryan Clark, and out Ronk and Naismith, unfortunately.
Chad Warner, that was another one we were saying watching the preseason. Remember, he was the one that they had to tell to calm down.
Yeah.
Warner was the one hitting it so hard that they said, calm down, this is just training. He brought that intensity. So there's another one that's for next week, possibly.
And let's have a look at their extended bench. So on their extended bench, we've got Robbie Fox, Josh Rowbottom, Ryan Clark, George Hewitt, Callan Riordan, Josh McInerney, which is not great.
And Warner.
Listed on the extended bench. Dylan Stevens and Warner. So
maybe
take a stab there.
You'd probably say Hewitt.
Hewitt, Rowbottom.
I reckon Clark might be out of it because he's kind of splitting up. I think Stevens will come in.
Yep.
And maybe Warner and McKerney. Although Warner could kick out McKerney.
McInerney. Yeah, who knows? I'm not excited with McInerney on the bench. I can tell you that much. But yeah, who knows? It's a bit early to tell.
Yes.
I don't think you can trade him out unless he's guaranteed to miss. So.
Jeez, I might have to wait until tomorrow night. And the problem is that, you know how you start messing with your team after the first game?
It's not great.
It's not, because you get one chance.
Nope. One chance.
You can't reverse
Just one
it.
chance.
You can't reverse it. And remember, you can't reverse it because people get done every time.
Yes, make sure. So right now, make sure you have all of your trades reversed, so that you only do the trades for tonight.
Oh, I've got
so
Naismith, Chris. I don't have Jacobs.
It's fine. I've got Cameron. Oh wait, you don't have anyone to play.
I got Cherry.
So here's what I can do with that. I've got Segler in my forward line, so I'm going to swing him into the rucks, and then I can loophole Cameron's score tonight. So I can have a look at his score, and then loop him on with a non-playing F8. So it should be right to go. Anyway, moving on.
Mind you, I'd rather that than have him named and then be a laid out.
This is
At
true.
least now you're kind of forced to make a change.
On the Essendon side of things, Andrew Phillips gets his debut, which is a bit strange. So he might just be on the extended bench. Braden Ham, Cal Hooker in, Dyson Heppel in, Patrick Ambrose in, and Sean McKernan. And of course, we already knew that Zerk Thatcher is out, and so is Araziol Fantasia.
Seriously though, people like even Ollie Wines didn't get named either because they avoided the COVID.
But just before you walked in, Ollie Wines got confirmed suspended for one game.
Oh, so same as
Yep.
Well, that's
which
fair.
Is crazy.
But if you break
I
protocols,
get it.
Yeah, well, they have to be.
But it's crazy.
But in order to get the league up and running again, they have to follow rules. It's like
not,
anything.
It's not the AFL's fault. They made an agreement with the state government to follow X rules.
These are the rules, and you can't go and do things. I mean, even rugby league players. I think it was Benji Marshall gave a hug to a reporter and like a hey, good to see you, kiss on the cheek, whatever. And all of a sudden they're like, hang on, this person's coming from the outside. Now you've just possibly contaminated
he got
everyone.
ejected from training, didn't he?
Yeah, that's the world we live in though.
Yeah, and he's the nicest guy, Benji Marshall.
Be happy footy's back and just don't see anyone.
True.
Even your partners.
Calm down there.
If you can help it.
All right, so on the extended bench there for Essendon, Parrish, Ambrose, Zaharakis, Kyle Langford, Aaron Francis, Braden Ham, Andrew Phillips, and Jaden Laverde. So I'd anticipate that Parrish is a definite in, Ambrose and Zaharakis definite ins. So it's probably really one to choose from Langford, Phillips, Francis, Laverde, and Ham.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's a fairly easy one there.
Apparently with Ham, they might be waiting till Christmas.
That's good. Yeah, well done. Yeah. By the way, you're half ahead of me, and I don't even have that open, and that's not...
Chris, I'm always a half ahead of you.
I'll pay you that one. All right, moving on. So for the Saints. Oh, Robertson's been omitted.
Has he? Yes!
Holy
Catch you later!
Jesus.
Catch you later!
Show us your Robin. Wow.
Gone from my side.
Well, I'm glad that I found out now, because that makes an easy up to how.
Yeah, it has to be now.
Oh, Jesus.
Because I was thinking of holding him or Zerk, and now they're both gone. And I'm not,
so my
actually,
trade plans, we're going to have to finish this podcast pretty quick.
And Stephen Hill's not even playing for Fremantle, so that's not even... Yeah, you can't even sideways.
I read online today that he did do a light session with everyone.
And then pulled off with knee fullers?
Yeah, no, they're just going to give him another week. So he wasn't playing this week anyway. Wasn't in their plans.
So I have to make some changes.
This is going to be crazy. All right, so in Jake Carlisle, Jonathan... How does Jonathan Marsh get... He's probably just on an extended bench, but still. Josh Battle, Nick Caulfield, and Nick Hind. On the extended bench for them is Jake Carlisle, Dean Kent, Dan Butler, Luke Dunstan, Josh Battle, Nick Hind, Jonathan Marsh, and Nick Caulfield. So I anticipate that the top 4 there are the ones that are going to be playing, and the bottom 4 are the ones that are not going to be playing.
You know what the funny part is that they got criticism of having all the Jacks, so then they started recruiting all the Nicks.
Classic. Well, it's a club name, really. Let's be fair.
Yeah, St. Nick.
All right, on to Bulldogs. Do you want to go through the Bulldogs?
Bulldogs out is Easton Wood. Lockie Hunter is suspended for obviously his drink driving shenanigans. I'm assuming that's what that was.
That is definitely what it was.
You don't get suspended for charitable work.
No, definitely not.
Although apparently he was going to be suspended more, Chris, but he could prove that he could see over the steering wheel. So, so he didn't get harsher punishment there. Apparently he was going down to St Kilda Beach to
get some chips.
Chips, yes, you got it. The seagull,
but
is there? So
it's more like Williamstown, but like whatever.
Lewis Young omitted. So Gowers, Richards, Jordan Sweet. Vandermeer apparently has been actually confirmed as a debutant defender. No one's heard anything about him. Sounds like he should be a Harry Potter extra from that name.
Yeah, I think he's actually listed as a forward mid though, so someone to keep an eye on because he could.
Someone told me a defender.
Yeah, he's a defender, but he's listed as a forward mid in Supercoach.
Oh, right.
I think.
Okay, maybe that's where we went.
Let me double check that later. But that's what I think.
Ling Jong, good to see him back. Honestly and sincerely, I think it's wonderful that Ling Jong.
He's a good player.
No, but he had injury after injury.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
And Lipinski is a great in if he's listed on the field, and Will Hayes. So they have some good depth there.
Yep. Unfortunately, out Easton Wood, Lockie Hunter, and Lewis Young as well.
Which I did first, PS.
Oh, sorry.
So on the extended bench, Suckling. I actually wouldn't be surprised if Suckling got dropped at some point.
Yep.
Richards, Cordy, Vandermeer, Kavara, Hayes, Sweet, and Ling Jong.
So I think Kavara's gone.
I think he's probably gone. Based on that, you already got Vandermeer being confirmed in.
Yep.
Richards, I probably would probably take Kavara's spot because he's more damaging and probably has a little bit more skill. Just quietly. Interesting. Middle of field though, Dunkley, McRae, and Bontempelli with Lipinski on the wing and Smith on the wing. So I think that's a pretty.
Bailey
good
Smith played fantastic in the first round.
Yeah.
So the big outs, I suppose. Robertson.
Oh yes.
Naismith.
Yes.
Is there really another big out? I think those are probably the big two.
No, him out and Zach Thatcher.
Zerk Thatcher, yeah.
That's his name, yeah. He's out. They're the big uns, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of rookie changes, but yeah, it's a bit strange. So now that we've gone through that, first of all, we're probably going to need about 20 minutes, half an hour to work out our teams.
We are.
But we're going to go through some questions quickly. So I'm going to go through Twitch first, and if you can get some Twitter and Facebook questions out. Yeah, we'll go through that.
We'll just hit Twitch first, and then we'll get to the plebs second.
So thank you, everyone, for joining into our first Twitch stream, essentially, of the year, which is good.
Yes, thanking you.
And we'll go through from Binger Carroll. So
Binger. Welcome back, Binger.
Well done, Binger. So his 5 proposed trades are BZT to Hayden Young, Green to Rivers, Dunkley to Dangerfield, Kavara to Sturt, and Gresham to Rosie. Well, you're shit out of luck.
No, yeah. Well, you can hold off of Sturt, obviously. Rosie's interesting with the POD there.
I love Rosie. I actually love Rosie as a pick. The problem is how are you going to generate cash with that setup? Of course, Hayden Young's not listed. Rivers is, so that's good. Dunkley Dangerfield's kind of a nothing trade. It just doesn't do anything for you.
Maybe early questions before team announcements we'll just kind of look at and maybe flick over. But Binger did ask how are we both, and lovely to hear from you, Binger.
Thanks, Binger.
Appreciate you on that front.
All right. So Benny Buzzboy, that's you, hey? Is that you, Benny Buzzboy? No?
Oh, that's me. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Oh no, cool. Benny. Yeah, no, Benny Buzzboy was someone else saying hi.
Yeah, all good.
Saying hi.
Okay, let's go to Miffy. Miffy's back. How you going, Miff? G'day, legends. Way too long. What's the drink of choice tonight? Well, 2 drinks. We had Burley Big Heads earlier. That was these ones.
And then the Pure Blonde Premium Mids. So they're low carb, ultra low carb, only 67 calories, I think, Chris. So,
That's decent. That's decent.
so half the calories, which means we can
Drink twice as
drink
much.
twice as much.
I don't think that's how
Little Britain, anyone know?
Yeah, no, of course.
Yes. Anybody? No dust.
All right. Teams are out. Yep. Naismith out. Yep. Fantastic. Chip. FB messages. Yep. All right. Cool.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll have a look at that.
And that is the Twitch done. So let's go
that's
through
fine.
the
All right.
Facebook
The Facebook
messages.
ones. Basically, someone wanted Fremantle, so Fremantle watched the first game. They asked on Luke Ryan. Luke Ryan.
Good question.
It is a good question, and the problem is that with their key defenders out, you're looking at some of these other players having a more important sort of lockdown-ish role. Not normally what Ryan would have, but I did hear previously before COVID that I actually had Luke Ryan in my team for a lot of the preseason, and I heard he actually had another significant injury.
Back. He hit his back. He had a back spasm.
So last year we heard
in the
rumors
last
he had
preseason game, I think.
Yep. So last year we heard rumors he had like a slipped disc, and obviously the club basically tries to manage that and keep you playing, but that's when his scores went absolutely downhill. Mm-hmm. I was keen for him until I heard he got injured again, and then I did not start him because when he has a back issue, he generally scores low, which was case in point.
Yeah.
I'd probably look at moving him, and here's the thing though.
Well, you don't necessarily need to. He could be recovered from his back now.
No. Well, you could, but no. Any defender that you did not have, so I'm actually even thinking about this in a couple of areas. The best person you can bring in, yes, fair enough. He scored well, he'll go up in price. 3% of people have this premium in their side.
3%. I'm listening.
It's not milk. Zach Williams, 3% owned. He didn't play round 1, so no one picked him.
This is true.
Zach Williams is 550k. He can tear up games.
He can.
Scores quickly, points per minute's huge.
And he does everything. He gets contested ball, he takes intercept marks.
No one has him.
He's got efficient by foot.
No one has him. So if you want some difference for your leagues and you want a premium, he's going to be top 10.
Oh, easily.
Zach Williams. Yep. No one has him. Get him in. That's my point of advice, particularly to win leagues. I'm looking at ways to do him in. Although now that Robertson's gone, I reckon I might do it.
There's a few that I don't mind. I didn't mind Wayne Miller in round 1 either. I think he got in the high 90s, 94, 95. I think he could be a good shout for pushing that top 10 barrier as well, and is a decent price.
Yep.
So there are other options other than just Jeremy Howe, but I do like Jeremy Howe. If Madgen is named, he's going to be taking that key defensive post.
Can you imagine?
Imagine. I do envisage obviously Jezza playing that loose role and just sweeping out the back and either taking intercept marks, or he's very much the guy that they look to for the switcher play because he's got a 60-meter accurate pass in him. So when they're looking to switch and transition the ball, they get it into his hands and they know that it's going to the other wing. So very important for rebound 50s and uncontested marks and effective kicks. Yep. So, good guy to have. But I do like Zach Williams. I like Miller as a very, very leftist centre choice. I actually really like Shannon Hearn. But there's a big risk with him because as soon as he gets injured, you got to trade him. Do not hold him. Even if it's a 2-week calf, he's gone.
Did he have any issues?
Last 2 years, start of the year, he's absolutely gone gangbusters. He's been averaging like 110 at the start of a year. And then as soon as he gets injured, he hits the deck, averaging 90 for the rest of the season. So
fair call. Abel says, where's the priorities? So you have Rivers, Bennell, Dodie, etc. How many should we bring in this round? I think realistically now, if you don't have Sturt and you don't have Georgiadis, then you might actually need to bring in a couple of players this week and run the risk.
I actually don't mind Bennell as a risk. I honestly don't mind it.
Don't consider it like, everyone's already played one game. It's literally, you have 5 trades. It's almost like a fresh start.
Yep.
If you don't have players playing, or maybe you're looking at people bringing them next week, then just make the move this week because you have 5 trades. Next week, you're not going to have that luxury.
Here's what I love about Bennell. Outside of his body, he is going to play every game. He's guaranteed to play if he's fit. Now that he's in the side, all he needs to do is play. He doesn't need to even score well, and he's going to be guaranteed a spot. Like they want him in the team. He's that good. He's that talented. If he plays forward, he can kick goals. So he's not necessarily like a guy that's just going to be, snag 1 or 2. Like he can kick 5, 6. Like the guy's talented. If he plays if he gets mid minutes, he will blow up and he'll average you 90 plus. So,
Well, you know what the funny part is? I am really rooting for Bennell to do well.
look, he's a great player and he's
But not only that,
fantastic
like, you
to
know,
watch.
after Gold Coast and some of the issues, and you kind of say, oh, bad boy Bennell, and then you kind of like, oh, I wonder if he'll do his cuff again, haha, and then he does
we
his
made
cuff
the,
again.
we obviously made the obligatory Coke jokes, but whatever.
But now
Coca-Cola.
points come, he's coming back in, he's worked really hard, watching the video of him actually getting emotionally upset
Absolutely
when he
fantastic.
got named. Man, I hope he kicks some ass. I really
honestly, for a guy that's been hit down that many times.
do. To keep getting up?
Oh, man, you just got to have respect for him.
Mate, I literally...
Who doesn't have respect for Harley Bennell?
Apologies for all previous jokes, but 100% bow down. Actually, Chris, hashtag blessed Bennell.
Yo, I love it. Yeah, get
it.
into it. First one of the year.
Let's bless him.
I like it.
Actually, I think I might have done it before, but first one since COVID. It's a post-COVID blessing.
Post-COVID hashtag.
Blessing. So, if you need to bring in people, I would do it this week.
I'm not against Bennell at all.
If you have Naismith, I don't expect it to be a long-term thing. It looks like he was touch and go for this week. A little bit of tightness, as they say, unless it's at Sydney.
So
tightness at Sydney is not tightness at Adelaide.
So you're in this position. This is a good one. If you have Cherry, do you trade in Cameron? Because you have to do it tonight. That's the problem.
Yeah. Or get rid of Kavara. Done.
And then get him in the forward line. And then worst case
scenario.
And then
that way, worst case scenario next week, you can then make your Cherry into someone better. You could. It's interesting. Jordan Key says, why can't I get a girlfriend? Is it because of the yeast infection? Because I keep saying Keyston and yeast. No, Keysty, it's because you have a small dick. I've been waiting.
Oh, wow. Wheel. He's just kidding.
No. Jordan gets it because he
Jordan gets it. We love you, Jordan.
He makes jokes previously about Keist, and then I said his name rhymes with yeast. So he made a joke.
No, that's good. That's good. And you know what? Yeast is good for one thing. Am I right or am I right? Hey,
I'm empty again. Keisty, though, no, happy to have you back, and thank you for your comment. Well played.
Ma, we want the meatloaf.
We do. Well played on the banter there. Starshevich is name, so keep him there. Viney. So this is where we're going to get into a little bit of interesting discussion before we go and actually try and fix our teams.
Excellent.
Because as much as we love everyone, we've only got 50 minutes, I think. Is it? What time's the game?
7:40.
Oh, so we have less time. We have 44 minutes to fix ourselves. Right, so let's
Chickadee, check your stuff before you wreck
yourself. Let's go talk about it then. So, how is good? People looking at getting rid of Sicily for, say, Howe. I don't think it's a great idea because they play similar roles. And not only that, Sicily has proven to go big over time.
So there's two things to that before we get a little bit deeper. The only reason you would do it is if you would predict that he wouldn't hit his break even this week and he'd drop cash, but you had a direct plan to get him back in 2 weeks' time. Yeah. So you're trading out Sicily to trade him back in once he's reached his bottom point.
That is true.
But because you're essentially upgrading someone to a fallen premium.
And the problem
with Bond, same with Dunkley, same with all those guys.
All the rules are out at this point because A, you have 5 trades. It's unusual. Secondly, we're looking at a quick way to finish our team as fast as possible. There's only, 13 weeks until finals.
Yep.
Which means...
Not going to happen.
Right, so...
Fort was my saviour, and now he's gone. And now I don't know what to do. And now I'm like...
But... So the issue is that you need
Ben
to
Long is in my team.
All the normal rules about holding premiums, waiting for 17 games, etc. doesn't kind of apply at this point. You can be harsh with your trades. You can look at different ways of making money. For instance, I'm looking at making some money off Dunkley Bontempelli, should I say, bringing in Viney because they're playing Carlton this week, and I'm hoping that the Viney types of players, which I'll get into in a second, could score well. If he goes big again this week, he's going to make me $100,000, and then I can then move him on to someone else again. Catch you later, Viney.
Viney's having a career best year easily. There's so many things going for Viney, and look, he's never really had a good year, which is why it's always going to be a career best.
Patches,
but he's had patches of brilliance.
Patches. But we call him Patches O'Houlihan.
Patches O'Houlihan. There's a guy on your team who's a pirate.
Yeah.
Steve.
Steve the pirate.
Steve the pirate. Sorry.
Dodgeball. Come on, Chris. Get there.
Sorry, I got to land my plane. The shorter quarters are literally written for Jack Viney.
Not just Jack Viney, the Cunningtons, the players who are notorious for not getting much time on ground.
Yep.
They are now impact. They come on. They probably play the same amount of minutes as they always have.
Yep.
Whereas normally when your Josh Kellys or your Titches that play high percentage time on ground, they normally do them over the longevity of the game.
Imagine this when Dane Swan was playing. Because Dane Swan was the most interchange player in the league.
So it comes down to impact and those who play low time on ground but high possessions. Cunnington, Viney, these guys, they can play more of the game now.
Yep.
So instead of other people overtaking them, they're actually now
closing that gap.
Highly dynamic, highly impactful with their disposals. And it's no wonder that Cunnington and Viney absolutely went gangbusters.
Yeah, so I actually really like Viney. There's no way that I'm not picking him up. However, I prefer Viney at M6 and getting Green up to Viney. The problem with having Viney at M5 is that if he doesn't go bad, you've got to then go up again. So unless you're going down from, let's say Bont, because a lot of people are doing Bont, let's say you go Bont down to Viney, and then 3 weeks time you go Viney back to Bont. That's 2 trades, but you've probably gained
a couple $100,000.
A couple $100,000. Oh no, probably $150,000. Let's say $150,000.
It could be 100 up one, 70 down on the other.
But you're not gaining the money from Bont. You're just transferring it.
Yeah.
Like you're gaining the money from Viney.
Yes.
So you could get you're going to get easy $100,000, but it might be as high as 150, depending on how he plays.
Yeah. Carlton this week.
So then you would be able to direct swap them, and then you can bank that extra cash and then upgrade someone else. So there is a reason to do it that way. But that's the only reason.
Yeah.
I actually see Viney as more an M8 keeper. The reason why I'm picking him is because I can chuck him in at M6, and he's going to be a keeper at M8, and I've paid $430,000 for him.
Once again, though, is that nobody knows.
Again, yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, everything in Supercoach is speculation.
But again, low time players like Cunnington, and he's another good option if you want to bring in a point of difference because they play low time on ground. Cunnington, notorious no tank. Never tanks it. Well, except for the end of the last season, but he tanked literally. Those players can go big. So that makes me think, I've got like Josh Kelly, who is highly impactful, highly skillful, and he can score well, but normally he plays a fairly amount of time on ground.
Yep.
He's not too bad. But then you look at other players that get their points from playing a large amount of time.
Yep.
It kind of then brings them back a little bit, and then those... it's really weird. That's weird.
That's why I literally stopped with McRae, because he has a very high time on ground.
Fair.
Same with Titch, but I was like, okay, well, Titch is still underpriced regardless, because even though he has a high on time on ground when he scores well,
he could still rack up 10 disposals.
Right. I still think Titch is a value option at 620.
Not only that,
he's probably going to average 120 regardless.
Titch could probably play most of the game.
Well, I think a lot of players can, but they're still going to rotate their players to give them a rest. So it's interesting how that's going to all pan out. But yeah, good observation. I think that the guys that traditionally play lower time on ground, that have always averaged that sort of 95 to 100, this year they're probably going to average 105 to 110.
Or even 115 on some.
And their prices right now are fantastic.
Yeah, it's crazy. Mind you, Lockie Neal, if you don't have him already, I think he's a great option. He's scored 157, 658k, expensive, but they're at home at the moment. They're playing, West Coast. So Fremantle, West Coast,
they've got a hard
Suns
run.
Maybe. And then it gets probably hard. But they're playing at the Gabba. Because of COVID, they're playing at the Gabba, so it's not too bad. Again, Dylan Shield, low time on ground, generally scored well.
I'll just a preface to that.
I wouldn't touch him.
Scored well. His DE that game was like 87%. I don't think I've ever seen a game in the history of AFL football where he's got even close to that. Last year, he averaged like 55% DE. So that is an aberration. He's more likely, if he goes well, aberration.
Jeez, I call it an anomaly.
Same to different. I think that he could be like a 105 player this year, but he's definitely not going to be like a super premium. Like I can't imagine him, and you might want to, just clip this for later, but I can't imagine.
But mind you, if you don't get the footy, so people like Matt Crouch, generally not huge time on ground, he only scored a 68. Dane Zorko, usually quite impactful, only a 52.
Well, this is your high, low,
high
lows.
highs, low lows. Elliot Yeo, 57. Dangerfield, 83, tagged, obviously. Dunkley, 67. So if you don't get near it, you don't get near it. And
good thing about Danger, though, he had a hell of a lot of CBAs.
Yeah.
So he led the game for CBAs, so that bodes well for this week
and you won't get tagged by GWS again this year, one game only. But yeah, like people like Elliot Yeo, you could pick up someone like him, who is a great player, later on. However,
absolutely, I love a good Elliot Yeo as an M7.
The old Yo-Yo. Gorn, here's the interesting discussion though, is that I am one of the only people looking at bringing in Max Gorn this week.
Which is decent. I think, especially with Naismith now.
I want to move heaven and earth, and I don't know why. It's a gut feeling that I have.
It's not gut feeling. He's going to go great.
No, it's a gut feeling I have that I need to get him because their next 3 or 4 games, I think it is, 4 games, he plays average rucks. And I mean
Less
not
than
just
average rucks.
yeah, less than average rucks, which means and
Scraping the barrel.
we already saw Grundy just got a 179, and rucks are notoriously scoring better this year. So why would you not want the best rucks when they're doing better?
He was never going to go well against Nick Nat anyway. Let's be honest. Nick Nat can jump over anyone in the competition. And Gorn is one of the tallest ruckmen in the league. Yeah. So with the tallest reach.
And he was also coming back off a little bit of a disrupted preseason.
But I just think Nick Nat is just going to jump and monster him.
See, I didn't start Gorn because he had that preseason issue, and I was like, he's not coming in fit. I can get Jacobs and Naismith for the price, handcuff them, and hopefully they make price.
If the season's starting today, I'm starting Max Gorn.
Yeah, so that's why I'm moving heaven and earth.
I started Naismith, but if the season starts today, I start Max Gorn. It's as simple as that. I wouldn't be trading him.
Here's the other tip, though. He's only in a quarter of sight. 1 quarter, and he's about to go into 4 of the easiest games he's going to have all year. He could, not surprisingly, average you 150, average 150 for the next 4 rounds. At that point, he's going to be overpriced. Good luck trying to get him in. 25%. So if you go Zach Williams and you go Gorn in, you have a huge difference on your opposition. It's massive. I am moving heaven and earth because gut feel is I'm not going to get him otherwise.
The issue is this year, more than any other year, is the year of Moneyball. And if anyone who's never seen the movie Moneyball, go hire it, watch it maybe in fast forward mode before the game starts tonight. Basically, what that means is that it's more about price per point than any other year ever. Because no one is going to get to a stage where they have a full premium team they're going to be able to maximize those points enough to make it worth it. Because by round 14, when most people are at full premium, there's only 3 rounds left of having all those premiums. What's better is to maximize your cash per point over the entire 17 rounds. And that, unfortunately, means a mid-pricer strategy.
Yeah.
So that is why I don't like necessarily Max Gorn right now, even though I wouldn't trade him if I had him. I'm not going to move heaven and earth to get him because my cash is dispersed across my team so I can maximize all the points on the field.
And that is fair, which then comes down to another debate where it's someone said, well, would you rather have Lockie Neal and Naismith, or would you rather have Gorn and Bennell? And I was like, well, hell, and if you look at the price, it's like, would you rather have Gorn and Real, which would actually average your same price? Yep. But everyone has Real, so it's kind of a moot point. It is interesting.
And unfortunately, we don't know, but we like to talk about it.
We don't know. And again, I could be 100% wrong, but which I can be with my gut feel. #Rampy, fuck you. But I don't know, for some weird reason, I'm thinking Max Gorn, he's playing Pitney. And not only that, a captain option that you can lock in with Grundy, no doubt. I think he's going to absolutely... No doubt. Flagged out. I think you can just lock it in. And lock it in, Eddie. But I'm going to move on from that. My concern is Houston for Port. I heard he's training not in that midfield as much.
Yeah, well, but then Port came out and said that wasn't necessarily them doing that.
Oh, it was a mixture of COVID. Sorry, yes, you're correct.
Yeah, so because it can only train 10 people at a time, he obviously is a player that can play both positions, so they wanted to play him with both. And so he trained with the midfield group, but he also trained with the defensive group. And if you take the first game as an example, he played most of the game in midfield. And then in the last quarter, he dropped behind the ball and just was picking up cheapos. But he didn't really have the impact around the ball. Similar to Weller.
Would you keep Houston? Would you go down to Howe? Or would you go up to Zach Williams if you had the chance?
Zach Williams is number one. I think that he's a better option.
Would you move? Yeah. Like, say you had...
If you had the cash for no reason...
Say you had Doherty, Sick Dog, and Houston.
If you had the cash for no reason, I'd definitely go Williams. But that's a big up. That's like 75K. You can't just pull that out of your...
Well, you can if you have Jacobs gone in your team. Interesting though, but I don't know if I'd go Houston down to Howe though. It would be a quick cash grab though.
I don't mind Houston to Howe, but I don't see the point. I think they're probably going to average similar anyway. Like regardless, even if Houston's playing behind the ball and in front of the ball, he's probably still averaging 95.
Yeah.
Like, can you see Howe averaging a lot higher than that?
No.
So it's not really going to be a points gain, and it's only 40K. It's
it's a mute point. Yeah.
I don't think it's worth the trade.
You either have to keep Houston or you maybe go to Zach Williams if you want to.
Remember that also, like, okay, so let's say Howe averages 100 and Houston only averages 95. 5 points per game doesn't hurt you as much as it did last year because it's only 17 games.
Yeah, true.
And now it's only 16. So 16 times 5 is what, 80 points.
Yeah, not much.
It's not. It's the difference is like.
Yeah. So you're saying recommend probably keep your premiums and then try and get a full team as quick as possible.
Absolutely. The reason you're getting Howe is to try and get more premiums into your team. It's trying to actually maximize your points on field per position. So getting more rookies off your field and putting more premiums onto your field. That's why you're going for someone like Howe. And cash is a consideration in that, of course, because Howe's going to make money. But if you don't trade Howe, you're not making the money. So it's a moot point.
Fair enough. Julian asked, Nick Nat to Jacobs is a good trade. Well, now that Hickey's gone, Nick Nat, keep him. He's actually a good option. And they were talking about him playing solely as the ruck. He could score as an impact player again.
Absolutely.
He could go 120 plus as well.
The problem,
this year.
again, it helps him with his time on ground. I think he's at least a 15% better off scorer this year. Just because he can play the same amount of minutes that he has traditionally played, but now he's playing 70% time on ground, not 55.
Maybe I should go Nick Nat instead of Gorn.
Oh, this guy over here.
This guy.
Yeah, that's good gear.
Dude,
yeah.
That's so bogan. Right. Interesting. Again, if you want to trade a premium, I think that's really solely on what it can do for you. Otherwise, yeah, it's up to you. We don't know.
Just single swapping. I had this conversation with a guy, Love You Jacko, on Slack earlier today. So he said that he was going to do a straight swap Bont to Danger. And I can understand if you're going, again, I mentioned this earlier, Bont to Danger to go back to Bont. But it doesn't make sense to go Bont to Danger.
Just side her premium. Unless, the only ones I could actually probably see was maybe with Titch, you weren't sure about his body. You're wanting him to maybe get 6 weeks of extra fitness up.
Potentially.
But you don't know if he's been doing COVID properly.
Right.
You don't know.
The thing with Bont and Danger, right, is if you thought that Danger was going to average more, just pick Danger to start with.
Yeah.
If you've already gone Bont, you've already thought yourself pre-season, Bont's going to average more than Dangerfield. Otherwise, you would have just chose Dangerfield. The only things that have changed, really, is the fixtures that you already knew anyway. So you already knew that they were all going to play each other once. So regardless, they're all going to get the tag at least once.
Yep.
And they have 4 games at GMHBA. They already were going to have 4 games at GMHBA. There's no confirmation outside of these first 4 games as to what's happening. Geelong want more games at home instead of playing at the MCG. But if they're going to release crowds, there is no way that the MCG goes, no, those 2 games that you owe us at the MCG are going to actually happen.
Once crowds are back, which they're trying to push for. Although, mind you, I don't think that's going to happen in Victoria anytime soon after the news today.
Oh, who knows? Yeah, I did.
8 COVID cases. One of those went to the rally on the weekend. So catch you later.
And then, so finally, after all that, let's say that the only real consideration is Danger doesn't have that tag, and Bont does. He's got the De Boer tag coming up. Steele might not even play. Still, depending on what happens on the weekend. But let's say there's the 35 points that that Bont's not going to be able to get because he gets tagged, or 40 points. Over the course of 16 games, it's almost a moot point. It's like 2.5, 3 points per game.
That's crazy.
Is that worth a trade to you? Remember, that trade can save you a 0, which is going to be 80 to 120 points, depending on what player gets injured.
I don't know what I'm going to do, Chris.
So
I've got Naismith as my second ruck, so I don't know what I'm going to do. I could bring in Jacobs straight away.
Oh, mate, have you got Segler?
No, I could bring in
Why
Segler.
don't you have Segler if you had Nate?
Because I've got 4 forwards. I've got Devon Smith and Petrarca.
I'm just going to put Segler into the ruck, bro.
I've got Devon Smith and Petrarca, so I could just beat myself depending on which way
this is true.
It went. So
this makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that probably fixes
I think
us,
that wraps
doesn't
us up because I got half an hour to fix my stuff, Chris.
We're pulling our hair out, and we hope that you guys are going a little bit better than us. But this is the life of a Supercoach tragic.
We are being very unusual, and we're pulling out early. We'll catch you later.
Oh, usually that's not my role.
It's not your role.
It's not my strong suit.
Look, catch up with you next time. Thank you for joining us, and may your round 2 be blessed.
Be blessed. See you guys.
See you guys. Bye.